I wish you guys the best with your Yum Yum podcast.
Yum, yum.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I am very pleased to hear that. I'm also very pleased to be here with you, getting ready to discuss another episode of Killjoys. We are up to the second episode of the third season. You've watched it. I haven't.
The show, that is, as a whole, yes.
Mhm.
We both watched this episode.
Yes, we did.
People can see our reaction on the internet, too.
If you want it in full, though, you've got to be a patron. I'm excited to share the Yum Yum spirit this time of year. Because you were so inspired by a line in Star Trek Discovery that you determined, nah, that's got to be it. We've got a lot of time on our hands at the moment. We've got to do it. We've got to start this podcast, and Star Trek Discovery is going to be the first show that we do. You originally wanted it to be Desperate Housewives.
Who didn't? We're all hungry for a Desperate Housewives or Gilmore Girls podcast. That's your poison of choice. But instead, we
I don't choose it anymore, though.
Oh, but when we started, you would have. But now we talk about science fiction television on this podcast. And as you said, that Star Trek Discovery really riled something up in us.
Yep. And the line yum yum was said in that show in a way that it stood out so much, and it captured a certain essence, the yum yum spirit. And, you know, we bring that to all of the shows that we cover, all of the episodes, anything that we discuss as the two hosts of a podcast. We bring the yum yum.
It was in our wedding vows that we had to bring the yum yum.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think it was.
No.
If not, I'll put it back into the wedding vows. We're going to
You
get
can't.
divorced and married again.
No,
to
I
make this
refuse.
proper. You can put that on the divorce papers, and then we get married again. But we are here to talk about Killjoys, the Sci-Fi Channel series, and we're getting
the
close.
credits let us know.
Oh my god. That is so annoying. We've vented about this a little bit in other discussions, especially in our reactions to the episodes, but we own Killjoys on physical media, on Blu-ray, and this exact same thing happened with The Expanse, which is randomly, halfway through the show, so like we're on season 3 now, when you're watching an episode, the Sci-Fi Channel original logo pops up to let you know that this is that. And it's an ugly, detestable, disgusting thing that just pops up on the screen, takes up so much space on the screen.
Civvy.
And it's just, why do we need that? I own this on physical media. We know. And it's weird because it happened in season 3 of The Expanse. And it happens in season 3 of Killjoys. And it carried on for The Expanse for that whole season. Then they switched to Amazon. Now I'm curious, will this be the case for the rest of Killjoys? It weirdly enough, too, let's not forget, it appeared in the season 2 finale. That's where it first appeared. But that's getting into all the technicals. How about we get into the details of this episode?
Yeah. What's your summary?
Season 3, Episode 2, A Skinner Darkly, which is a play on A Scanner Darkly, the Philip K. Dick story, which deals with identity, which seems very apt for what this episode's doing. And I'm going to do something myself here that's going to get a lot of ire. Rachel's going to skin me alive for doing this, I can tell you. But I'm just going to lay it out right here, right now. What I'm going to do is worth it. I am going to read the IMDb summary because it's
This better be fucking good.
Because here's the thing. I don't know if you wrote this or if I wrote this years ago, but one of us wrote this in spirit.
A lot of spirit talk.
Yeah. John's search for Clara gets under some people's skin.
Meanwhile,
Dutch and Davin attempt to train a replacement nerd. Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. The punniness and the use of nerd in the summary is so appropriate for this episode. And we're going to do even more different things in this particular discussion on the podcast. Killjoys likes to use the word bitch.
Yep.
That's a given. It always uses it.
But
and guess how many...
this episode had a new favorite.
And I will say this, it did still use bitch a lot. 6 times again. 6 again.
What?
Crazy. I did not feel that because another word was taking over the screen.
I only remember 3.
That's it. No, there was another word,
it was
though.
very much heavy in the back of the episode. No, nerd. Nerd dominated the front half.
And then bitch took over the back. I did a nerd count because this episode, as the summary was getting into, has a storyline in which Team Awesome Force / the Rack need new people. They need scientists, engineers, brainiacs, nerds.
Well, no, I think they already work for the Rack, don't they?
Yeah, but they need to fully implement them. They need to actually have them be
field agents.
Yes, that's correct. And they used nerd a lot. How many times do you think? How many?
10.
No. Sadly, no.
Oh, no. 10 is just the number of episodes since a nut shot.
Oh, since someone got kicked in the genitals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, will
So
it be 10 more?
How many nerds did we get?
7. 1 more than the bitches we got. This was unyielding. It was so aggressive. And that must mean someone in particular wrote this episode.
Lavretta!
Michelle's at it again!
This episode was way more repetitive than any of her other scripts have been, though. Like, usually it's full force, no breaking speed, barreling through everything.
The pacing was much slower paced in comparison to other ones that she's done.
Yeah, like they just kept on saying the same thing but in different ways, and it's just like, oh, no, you already said this, I swear, what's happening?
It is also one of the few times we've seen her write an episode that isn't a big turning point event episode. So maybe this is a weakness in terms of her abilities. Like, she's the showrunner, so she does the premieres.
She thinks big picture.
She thinks the big picture. While this is a fairly small picture episode. Like, this is...
It's setting up important things. Like, there's definitely moments in this episode where it's going to be like, and then that episode was where this happened, but it's not the moment of the season.
And it's fairly small scale and simple as an episode individually, while her other episodes, they're jam-packed, they're full, and they're, as stated, they shift where the story goes. This does not. This is furthering it.
No, and I find it interesting that this doesn't have a common director at the helm either, though it is a returning name. Andy Mikita is back, having previously directed Vessel, an episode which I was more keen on than you, but we both had problems with it, and we were like, is this direction problems or post problems? And it did lean into similar elements that were in Vessel, but they were executed much better.
I think we can say, with the great benefit of the doubt, there's still some wiggle room here, but I think we can say that Vessel was screwed up in post, in editing, not because of the direction, because the direction here was It wasn't outstanding, but it was
solid.
efficient.
Like it was fine.
Function.
It did lean heavily on the pop songs in the way that Vessel also did, but they worked better here.
They were still abundant, but again, worked
Our
for the episode's
villainess had a
favor.
theme.
That was great that she had a theme.
You must be Ollie. Or is it Clara?
It's bitch, you have got to be joking if you think that you're gonna take me with that little shit stick.
Let's find out.
I will lay out for everyone. I remembered this episode very much so because of some of the reveals in it, but also because of the villainess, this woman with this over-the-top hairdo. Camp. This elegant leg that she uses as a weapon. And I remember the hack mods, but of course all of the stuff with Clara/Ollie. But I remembered this episode much more fondly than I came away from it in this particular viewing. I liked it a lot more the first time round. I did not care for it this time. I was left a bit despondent, and I was noticing a lot more of the flaws of the writing, and I was getting a bit annoyed with the episode at several points as well. Just, we get it.
I could tell
was
that
my annoyance.
You were kind of asking me if I was getting annoyed without trying to let me know how much it was annoying you, because you didn't want to lead me to say something.
In my defense there, that was more, and we'll talk about it, more grander story things than this individual episode that I was curious of if that thing, and we'll get into it, the Clara thing was annoying for you, because I had a feeling, I reckon Rachel will be annoyed by this. But what did you think of this episode overall?
I thought that it was okay. The more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, oh, yeah. But it's not an episode where I'm like, no, that was bad and you could fix it this way. It's like, I understand the reasons why things are done the way that they are done to an extent, but it really is that repetition that makes it feel like they didn't have enough to bulk out this episode. And I know that there's going to be episodes down the line that are going to feel too full.
I thought that the two stories on their own were lacking. The stuff with Johnny and especially Ollie, I feel could have had another episode's worth of tale to be told.
And I was thinking that he'll be away for at least 3 episodes. I didn't think that he would be back on Lucy at the end of this one.
With no sweat to it either.
Yeah, it feels like, and now he's home. And it makes Dutch's and Davin's longing to have Johnny back feel less, not feel more, because it didn't have enough time to breathe in terms of what we're seeing in the show, because they've tried to convey that, like, it's been some time since he left, but we haven't felt his absence. We've been told how they feel his absence.
I feel with the story about Team Awesome Force training these nerds, that's another one in which, that's a solo, that's like one episode, that's a one and done, but it really didn't have much going on in it.
No. It felt like a means to an end.
It felt like you had the idea of they are testing these nerds in a virtual reality and one of them figures it out, but there's still a lesson to be learned there. That's where it feels like the conceit of this story came from, but it didn't really fill that out much more. It has the potential. This is the thing about this episode is, to me, the frustration comes from, I see the vision here, but it's blurred.
What the fuck did Davin do on that ship?
What do you mean?
At the end of the last episode, there's like a creepy little sting and he goes up into the ship. And in this episode, they do specify that it's a black root ship.
Mm-hmm.
How did they figure out that?
I think that's just a given.
Like, yeah, I
Because
guess.
Davin went inside of it and he
Yeah.
confirmed it. Did we see any of that?
But it's like, okay, so that's black root, not Anila.
Specific.
Why does that matter? How did you figure that out? We don't know. We don't know. They don't follow up on Davin actually going into the ship at all.
By himself.
They just mention, yeah, those black root ships. We've got those. We've got to figure out something about those.
Narratively, when you have the conceit be, we have these ships that we can't get into and we need to study them, and then you end an episode with a character being able to enter one and he does it by himself, and you have like the special effect of it going cloaked, you want that to be followed through on in a big, meaningful way.
It shakes my faith.
Well,
Because it makes it just feel like they did that because they wanted a big moment.
that was the
And
sting. Yeah, that was the end.
That was the end. And then they haven't dealt with it. And it's the same sort of problem that you in particular have with Turin being stabbed and taken off screen, and then
Klein's going to speak with him, and he never references that part of the incident, which that was the end of that episode. But we had the benefit of there was so much time in between. This is one in which you can't not comment, and not only not comment, have a story progress immediately after that. Because when we see Davin in this episode, he's just standing around talking, being old Dav, and I'm thinking immediately, wait, didn't you go inside one of those ships? What happened?
and you waited for a bit, and then you were like, so they're not going to acknowledge that?
Surely they'll acknowledge it in this episode. They did not. If they acknowledge it in the next episode or the one after, it's too late.
No.
Because my brain is always thinking about, like, wait, realistically,
you won't forgive it.
Davin, the first thing Davin would do if he saw another person would be, I got into that ship, let's do something about that. And you know what that'd be? A plot. A story. Something that you need to see on the screen.
But it feels like we're not doing that yet. But they wanted to use the sting.
I'm going to put this out. Do you think that sting at the end of the last episode was intended for that episode? Because you could take that and put it elsewhere.
Yeah.
It could have been put at the end of this episode. Or the next. I don't know. Like, it doesn't... It feels so...
It's unanchored.
It's unanchored because we aren't anchoring it. We aren't following through on it. And I know...
Yeah, and even the way that they set that up, like this summons...
Yeah.
It's just like, if that line about the ships wasn't here, then that could easily have been shifted.
And even the way that scene was presented in the last episode, it was so in isolation. It's just, here's a scene where Davin decides he goes in it. You could edit that and put it elsewhere, and it would not feel any more disjointed or obvious than it does where they've placed it. But yeah, we're referencing this straight up top because this episode and this season, very much so, has already changed from where we have been in the last two seasons, which is we are so laser focused on the ongoing continuity, narrative, and story. And so when we have something that isn't tying into that, it stands out more than in other seasons where it's like the second episode was like, yeah, we're going back to Old Town, but we're doing all these weird little kooky things. And
then there's commentary again on how things aren't the same. Like, they're like, okay, you're going to go do a warrant, but it's not to do a warrant. It's to test out the nerds because they need people who are able to study the plasma and understand it, because you can't win this war with soldiers alone.
You can't win any war through just strength. You need intelligence, you need intel, and the rack is severely lacking that? Or if they do have it, how do they best utilize it?
Underdeveloped talent that aren't field tested, which becomes, one of the plots of this episode.
You need a new brain.
You need a new face.
Not what I meant. Look, if we could beat the Holland into submission, my money's on you two. But it's gonna take more than soldiers to win this war. We need our own scientists, code crackers, engineers. We need nerds.
But, Ryan, we've skipped over something very important.
What?
This time it actually was a test.
What do you mean?
Remember the time that Turin was like, it was a test. He's like, Sabine's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And he's like, it would have been cool. This time it is a test. The nerds are being tested in a sort of unknowing AIVR
situation, because they want these nerds, these scientists, these engineers. They've got to be field tested.
And we don't want them to die in the field, so we're going to do it artificially first.
But as you're saying, this is the end reveal of this particular plot. We, the audience, don't know that, nor do these three
I
nerds.
became suspicious once Zeph became suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that would make sense.
How about we talk about the people that they're testing out first? We've got 3 of them, 2 guys, 1 woman.
Mm-hmm.
Zeph is the woman. She's the one that gets a lot of focus. But let's talk
sort
about...
of reminds me of your sister in a way.
I think my sister would appreciate that. They have a certain surliness this character.
Also the look.
Yeah, I can see that. And the funky haircut. So we got the 2 guys. One of them was in Scott Pilgrim, by the way.
Ah.
I recognized him. I'm like, you're from something.
The longer haired
Yeah, the longer hair, curly-haired one. So we've got these 3. You've got the 2 men and the woman. And so the 2 guys are less defined.
I don't remember the 2 guys' names.
They're less defined, but what I really liked was they were all still supremely competent, even though they were thrown into a very extraordinary situation, but still not experienced. Like they were making rookie errors. Like they were debating about the science and the maths.
Rookies.
But not to such a comical degree.
No.
And I like that all of them, except for Zeph, technically pass this test. And even then, Zeph would pass if she wasn't her type of personality. But even then, like these 2 dudes, the one with the curly hair in particular, he was pretty cool, calm, and collected through most of this situation. It was just him and the other guy would debate about the maths and if it checked out or not, and they would just chew up time. But when barked at by Davin or Dutch to get on it, they were willing to actually adapt and actually try.
I also gotta say, I think the tests themselves that they were going under were pretty well designed. Like, they're things that often come up and that they need to demonstrate that they are able to do.
They are going to this base to play with a MacGuffin, and wouldn't you know it, the people at this base have disappeared, something's going wrong, and it's a quarantine situation, of course, and the previous people have been turned to ash because, obviously, with the quarantine, you've got to kill the virus, so there's fires and there's debris and all of the spooky stuff here. And it's about the characters slowly learning that and then revealing that one of the 3 learns that this is not just a scary situation, but it's actually a simulation. Yeah. And there's some hijinks in here. They have to convince Dutch to go down a corridor with this acidic thing in the air, and she has to wear a suit, and then she has to take off the helmet and put a hairpin into a thing, and it's all about like trust and faith. And the big turn point at the end is we won't be able to complete the mission we were set out to do, but we will have to evacuate and make sure everyone is
gets
safe.
out alive. At which Dutch declares the new mission.
Mhm.
And then Zeph goes against that because she thinks she knows what the real test is. And she's wrong.
She is.
Wrong.
Zeph commented that Davin isn't sweating and he isn't getting the same symptoms or anything as the others are when it comes to the virus. And you thought, well, he's immune. Or Davin's body will react differently to this because of
his green goo powers.
And that's great. The show doesn't explicitly say that, but you in your mind, knowing this character, knowing his situation, don't necessarily raise an eyebrow in the same way Zeph does with this, because we know that he is, medically speaking, unique compared to the other people in the room.
Also like that it's basically, well, he's medically into you.
That was a good bit too. He didn't sweat because he wasn't worried that you were in actual fear, because he's got the hots for you too. It's just one of those.
But he's into you. So if you were in real danger, he would have been sweating.
Not just into, loves as well. That was what was the emphasis there. But I also liked as well with Dutch, her demeanor throughout this test is different to how we've seen her when she's in actual life and death scenarios.
She wasn't as quippy.
She wasn't as quippy. She was a lot more in a teacher mode. I still wish that this test had more to it as an actual storyline within an episode. It still felt lackluster to me.
Yeah, and the reveal for us doesn't change anything, really. Because it's just like, well, yeah, Zeph dies, but they all felt expendable.
But then it's the twist that no, she's not dead and it's all fine and
But it feels like, oh, okay, like it's not a revelation in the way I think that the show wants it to be for me.
The story is really a vehicle to help this newly introduced character of Zeph, the woman of the three subjects being tested, seeing what she is like, how she stands out from the others, how much of a rogue element she is, but she has strong convictions in herself and she's willing to go to dire extremes for them. But there's a flaw there, there's an arrogance there, she has an Achilles heel to her brilliance. And it's mainly to give this, again, new person a whole little story to explain why they should be a part of Team Awesome Force, rather than like, we assigned her to you and now you have to, like, Dutch herself sees this crazy thing go on and snaps her fingers and says, you will be a part of my team.
Yeah, you aren't going to work with Turin. You're going to be better off because you're going to be working closer with me, and I'm starting this war.
And Zeph's so jazzed to be, I want to be anywhere near you. Oh, well, sorry, being too honest. What did you think of this character?
I'm not fussed. Like, it is so clearly a setup. And I'm just like, okay, you still feel really disposable.
Okay, so you're thinking in that function of narrative.
Yeah, because I'm not attached to them as a person.
Fair enough.
Because it's just like, oh, Zeph wandered off. Oh, Zeph wandered off. Oh, Zeph died. Oh, Zeph's not dead. And
then Zeph has some observations.
Zeph's enough of a rogue that, Dutch wants to bring them in.
Zeph is observant, and I really liked that Zeph is not Johnny.
No.
She's not an engineering genius.
The show declares there's no replacing Johnny.
Exactly right.
That was a massively stupid risk to take.
Yep, kinda. But I was right.
I don't mind Zeph, but I do think this episode could have given her more moments. I wish that she talked to the other nerds more. She mainly was just giving little exchanges to Dutch and Davin. That's what leaps out to my mind, at least. I wish that she was more of a focal presence, so that way when she did go off on her own, there was some level of care, whether it be I genuinely worried that she was going to die, or I was annoyed at her. I wasn't even annoyed at her during
I was
this.
just like, oh, yeah, she's the one that made herself known in the intro, so she's going to be the one that has something to do in the plot. And oh, look.
I think the performance is doing the heavy lifting in this.
Oh, yeah.
They've got an interesting screen presence, and they have an ease with these awfully heavy technobabble lines. Like, you need a special breed of actor to pull off these lines, and Killjoys does not always succeed at getting those actors, so they've done it well here. So we have to keep tabs on Zeph, because not only is it that she's a resource, she's specifically, Rachel, a member of Team Awesome Force, which is different to, you know, Pippin last episode or Romwell last season.
Yes.
There is something much more grand.
She's been inducted.
Yeah, and she gets a handshake, and it's very much, you have become one of us, which is quite a big deal, but it's both like, cool, but I wish this character had stood out more.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to talk about the other side of the story? You wanted to get into those Skinner mods, hack mod Skinners?
I really like the premise of this plot. And then when I think about it in actuality, I'm like, oh, but I kind of feel let down by it. And I want to dig into it to see if I can figure out my feelings on it, because the idea of there being a hack mod scientist who has developed the technology, also encountered the Gringu, the plasma, and is using it for their own evil means, and it helps Johnny out a bunch.
It's also good to note that she saw the healing properties of it and came up with a different way of using it than Klein did initially. But he saw the healing properties and he was like, ooh, immortality. She came up with more superficial means, but still different ones.
But also clearly connected to her previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
So her being, like, finding the goo independently, I like that. It makes it feel less predetermined that Team Awesome Force is the people, or are the people that are going to confront and potentially solve this grander problem.
These type of stories can fall on their face because it only feels like our special few people found out about this, when realistically, in a huge society of movers and shakers, surely other people would have tugged at the thread of this. And this is what this does so well, is someone else stumbled across this and actually has more information about it, and they're using it for completely different reasons than the villains have been doing it for, and our heroes are trying to do it, which makes the big story feel real, because a random cosmetic lady could find this out.
Yeah.
Surely other people have found it out.
The fact that she's using it as a tool to get basically revenge on hack mod owners by stealing their skin.
On paper, there's a lot interesting about her, but also the character is portrayed in a very campy, over-the-top way.
And the show heightens that with her having a theme song.
And different legs to use for different purposes. This actress, from what I understand, is a person that Michelle Lovretta really likes. She is a bionic artist, so she makes fashionable prosthetics and bionic things, and she herself has appeared in music videos and things like that, is a model herself, and brought into this show to play this character because it just feels fun to do. And I thought her performance, you could tell that she's not an actress, I'll just say that, but I thought it was appropriately hammy.
Yeah. I saw what they were going for, but I didn't love it. I don't know, like, it was too upfront with its campiness for me, because it stood out, and it's like, oh, okay, she's going for it, respect it. And then the show also goes for it, and it feels a bit too much for this episode, because this episode has a lot and nothing going on at the same time. So the campiness kind of feels like that too, because she's doing a lot and the editing is doing a lot. But there's also like nothing of substance there underneath it.
I loved how campy she was, but I think it did take away from the material itself, because when you hear the character's backstory, hear their motivations, and how they are an active part of this Rat City community, there is so much that you can chew into with that, but with how the show executes it, it feels very fluffy instead. There's something really palpable that you could get into with that these hack mods aren't perfect people. Lots of them are mentally traumatized as well as physically, and we have this small community within this community that Johnny is interacting with who seem like morally and good and pure people who are trying to do good, but they also are willing to work alongside or be complicit with a woman who skins people alive because they were the former oppressors. That is such a complex thing that you could really sink your teeth into, but the episode doesn't want to do that.
No.
It wants to be silly fun with this side.
I find it even more frustrating when we get to the end of the episode and it's just like, I'm going to put a pin in the hack mods.
And with her as a character, they just threaten to take the repos to her, and then she shakes in fear, and then they make a little joke of, did you do that? You won't know, will you? And it just bothered me because
they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and it's just like, and no, because you can't make this work both ways for me.
This was very much leaning into the fun of playing in genre, but without actually getting into that genre, because sci-fi horror is present in both stories. And
yeah, we see a bunch of bodies on meat hooks.
And in the test scenario plot, spooky abandoned science lab that is now under quarantine, and we have
around and it's all dusty and he's sneezing,
flashlights.
but it's human.
But it doesn't really feel authentically dedicated to the sci-fi horror, because it wants to also be light, fluffy fun. Like, Johnny's going to get his face cut off, but he's going to make 15 quips about that at the same time.
It's weird that, like, I wish that it meant more in an episode that is about a spa that skins people, that the episode itself has a false veneer and a lack of substance. Like, I wish that was...
I'll give you 2 words of how I think this exact problem could have been fixed. Adam Barkin. He gave us a glitch in the system. He gave us Meet the Parents. He is a writer who, his background is also, even if it's schlocky, horror stuff. I think if he was given this script in particular, I think it would have felt more true to the premise's promise rather than what we do get. Because I'm not saying that Michelle Lovretta is a bad writer. We have enjoyed her stuff, but I don't think this is her lane in the same way as what she usually does. Her usual, like, dancing around the fun genre trappings works for episodes like a premiere or a finale, but with this one in particular, I just wish that we got more. That's what the critique comes back down to, is we could have had more.
It's just an evil spa.
Don't move. I'm kidding. I know you can't move.
Ollie is Clara. That's right. Clara, that character who they introduced and then reintroduced in season 2. They promised us we'll get a story with her. Well, we kind of got a story with her, which is she disappeared, and then then a new actress is playing this character, but it's a different character who's then revealed to actually be Clara because she got redesigned. She got a Skinner mod because she went rogue and crazy, and they had to hide her, and they erased her memory so she wouldn't know this about herself. I'm saying this in this way because it feels very contrived in my mind, but I can see why this is the way that they would go about things. But what did you feel about this revelation? I thought that you would be a lot more annoyed about this than you ended up being.
Yeah, because it felt fleeting. It's just like, okay, and now we're done with Clara. Like, I'm like, either pick her up or put her down. Stop trying to do both. That's annoying me because I want her to feel like a person, not like a toy for the script.
So the actual revelation itself just felt very fleeting to you, even though it's such a big thing that Ollie is Clara.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I wasn't that attached to Clara. I'm not that attached to Ollie. But I'm annoyed that the show is making me think about its mechanics. Because in so many ways, it's moved past that. But this episode really highlights it. It feels like, because it's been so smooth, I am feeling those cracks and noticing them more.
I will state it. This is something that you speculated during our reaction, but this is the writers having to pivot and create something because the actress they originally got for Clara was booked on another job.
Yeah.
She was in another show. So they had to come up with something because the ending of the second season was he goes off with Clara. And although we have a time jump, they still felt the need to involve the Clara character. And I think when you look at it from that angle, you have to at least give the show its credit for committing to the fact that they had a problem, but they're not going to just ignore it. See, this is what I would rather want than the things we were talking about at the beginning of the episode where they gave us Turin being dragged off by Klein or Davin going into a Hullen ship, and then they don't address it immediately or fairly soon after, if at all. While with Clara, look, there's a version of this where you start season 3 and Johnny's just on his own and he says a line and then you move on. But I like that they gave a little bit more story and they gave some mystery to this, and they let another actress step in and play the role technically, but it's not her either. Like, it's not just they recast her. Yeah. They had a storyline about how she's been remade. And so I like that. That this is the thing that you can do in a science fiction series when you come up against some problems. Depending how your show works, you can explain away why an actor leaves your show by saying, oh, we gave them a new face in between seasons, and it can work. And I thought that was good, but overall, I agree with you. Like, Clara, you can't get committed to a character that's never been committed to.
Yeah. it's frustrating because, like, the mouth got treated better in terms of characterization than Clara has, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Why, though?
Because the show is pretending like she's something more. And she is immediately something more to Johnny. There were the sparks of romantic interest with her first appearance. And then there was the setup of them being like a Bonnie and Clyde on the run thing. And then there was the, oh no, I need to find her. I can't lose somebody else or be left behind by somebody else.
I think it's just also, we have been told 2 times before that Clara will matter. And so when you get told the 3rd time, Clara / a whole group of people, the hack mods, will matter, it doesn't mean anything because we've been burnt 2 other times.
Yeah, it doesn't mean as much. It's definitely diminishing returns.
I was also a little peeved that they made such a strong emphasis at the finale that Johnny left and that he couldn't come back because of what he did. The things that he did, not only because of his emotional, low, but because he shot Dulcea, that he can't just stroll back into the quad because he's like, would be one of the most wanted people. And at the end of this episode, he just strolls back in the quad, is sitting there, and Lucy, and they're just like, we'll sort it.
Not addressed at all.
We'll sort it. We'll sort it out. We have an internal investigator, but whatever. Like, it really is annoying that happened. Like, hopefully that's what next episode gets into, because we actually get an answer of what happened to Dulcea in this.
Yeah, and I was convinced that she wasn't dead. Convinced.
Oh, you can't keep a bad bitch down.
Now, she's too useful for them as well. Like, in terms of the show, and also Anila, who Dulcea has to kneel in front of her as, like, she's naked and getting into a bath of the plasma.
Anila is, yeah. Well, we see Anila at the end of this episode, and she's getting made up first. Like, they're doing her hair, they're finishing her nails, they're putting on her little outfit. Very pristine, very much like a princess. And we're intercutting with Dulcea with a lace over her face. And what has happened to Dulcea? Rachel?
She has been sixified.
She's been made a Hullen.
What she wanted.
She wanted to live forever, and now she's a Hullen, but we know how Anila's versions of Hullens work. You are subservient to her.
Yes. Which I don't feel like Dulcea is going to deal very well with.
She is brought forth in front of Anila, and Anila is fully naked in front of her. She looks like Dutch, and she is low. She slinks into this green pool, and it's just so awesome that at the end of last season, you were like, oh, what the hell? She's drinking the plasma? That seems very wasteful. Wouldn't she already like be fully in it? I'm like, yeah, but there's like an excess you can clearly tell with her. And then in this episode, she's just bathing in it because, like, why not? She could just go. I like that her goons, her little minions behind her, made sure to keep her hair out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep it out of the plasma.
Not the first time that she's done that.
No.
Maybe not even the first time that day.
What did you take away from Dulcea's reaction, though? Because she's forced to kneel. She doesn't choose
and
it.
She is a bit confused, but she also realizes very quickly that it's not going to be the right thing to fight.
And here's something I want to know about. Dulcea was in Old Town. Now she's on the ship that's heading to the quad, you assume. Like, that's how we've been told.
Yeah. So the logistics or the geography of that
The speed of that? Yeah. I want to know how that works. Or is Anila not really in a rush? She's got a whole fleet.
Oh, yeah, I feel like she's going at her own pace.
She's at the go. Okay.
With a killer fucking ship. I loved seeing the outside of that thing again.
The ship is cool. What do you think about Hannah John-Kamen's performance of Anila? We have seen it, but now we hear it.
It's weird because it's just like, okay, she's British still, but in a different way. It's like she pitched up her voice a little bit more. And it's like, okay, there had to be some vocal difference that is not going to destroy this actress's voice. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it.
Did it meet your expectations of what this would be? You said that it would be a very campy, over-the-top performance.
Yeah,
when you were
it's
guessing.
like her voice is almost meant to be sweet.
Sickly.
Yeah, in contrast to her evil nature, which feels very traditional campy villain.
She sounds like a schoolgirl, while Dutch herself sounds like a school mom. We've talked about that, actually. Like, there are many times where Dutch will say something and it sounds like she's a school mom who's telling you off. While Anila, with the one line that we get of her, really, she sounds like a small girl who needs a big lollipop.
Now come, tell me everything.
On our rating system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good, what do you give this episode?
Oh, I give it a yum.
How could you give the second episode of a season a yum? That's unprecedented and uncalled for.
I know. I just need to buck the trend.
I want to be legitimate here, serious here. We have made statements about how it seems like the second episode of each season is a bit of a dud or an outright stinker. And I don't want it to get confused for you out there listening, thinking that we are now going to make that the case by hook or by crook. I thought this episode was lackluster, but I thought it was better than the other two that we have given the yum to.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this was much better than the previous second episodes of a season.
We have a binary rating system.
And I have to give this a yum. Do you want to know the title of the next episode?
Tell me what the next one is. Tell me.
Another playful title. It is called The Hullen Have Eyes.
Ooh, I get that reference.
Yes, The Hill Have Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will be happening in episode 3 of season 3?
I'm guessing that it's a spooky one, and we might be dealing with a Hullen spy.
Ooh, neat. Do you think there will
Or the rapey hill folk are back?
Oh, yeah. That could be good. Do you think there'll be any particular strands that were left loose at the end of this episode that will be tugged on? Do you think we'll see more Dulcea and Anila?
I don't think that'll be... I don't think we'll deal with it. We might see them again briefly, but I don't think we're going to get much more than that. I think there's kind of just going to, for the next couple of episodes, it'll be a little bit more Anila each time we see her.
Thank you all so much for listening out there. Rachel, how about you tell everyone where they can find us and how they can support the podcast?
They can find us on their social media of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Email address is yumyumpod@gmail.com. Patreon is yumyumpodcast. You get access to full reactions of each of these episodes of Killjoys, as well as a massive back catalogue of audio content, as well as access to our Discord server.
A massive amount to us all. I am so glad, though, that we are making our way through Killjoys again. Every time we finish a season, I just want to leap into the next one. So every time we finish a season, I just want to dive into the next one. But that is all until next time, Yumlings out there. Just think of this, okay? If you're in a test situation and the commander person, the person leading the charge says, the mission now has changed to we must save all of us, take a clue. Pick that up as obvious.
Bye.